dropping everything at a moment's notice, as always, because if you're a car guy, you know exactly why I'm throwing a bunch of tools in a bag, hooking onto the trailer, and rushing around like mad. All right, so what's going on, guys? Welcome back. I am coming to you from the past. Maybe the distant past, maybe the not so distant past. It's just a regular Sunday afternoon, you know, as a normal car guy, and you might open Facebook Marketplace and suddenly you see something, they're an hour away, so you hook onto the trailer in a scramble, and now we are headed to look at something. So that's what this episode is. If you're seeing this now, things went well, and you may or may not know by the thumbnail what we're picking up. So we're gonna go look at something that I'm really keen on. I know a little bit about these, super excited. Hope you guys are too. Let's go take a look and maybe put this thing on the trailer. Well, guys, we're back from a spontaneous trip down into Georgia. Last second, no plans to do this at all today. But I present to you my new to me 1967 Chevrolet Corvair 500 four-door. Now, I didn't film much at all when we got there and spoke to the previous owner and got it loaded up, but Tony and his wife were super people. We had a great time hanging out with them. Probably would have been fine to film while we were there, but you know, sometimes you just live in the moment and don't stick cameras in people's faces. Even though Tony's probably watching this right now and super stoked that this car went to someone who is going to put it back on the road again. So much like my Corvair, which is a 65, which was the first year of this late model body style, mine's a two-door. And just like my Monza, this 500 has a flat six air-cooled motor in the back, like all the Corvairs did. The coupes, the convertibles, the four-doors, the Greenbrier vans, the ramp side pickup trucks, the Lakewood wagons, all the Corvairs had the flat six air-cooled motor in the back. And this one is complete. Now, if you're from the Northeast or anywhere where they salt the roads like I am, you'll already notice how insanely rust-free this car is just from the angles you've seen already. But what you haven't seen is the undercarriage. And although I haven't had this thing up on a lift yet, underneath is brand new. This car is originally from Texas, and then it moved its way into Georgia, and it stayed in the dry climates of the United States its entire life. And boy, oh boy, does it show. Now, this thing's had a respray at some point in its life, but if I had to guess, it was while it was out in Texas and had a chance to sit under that Texas sun and patina in all the right ways. I've talked forever about wanting to bag a four-door late model Corvair. I was actually looking for a four-door late model Corvair when I found mine, and the one that I ended up buying was just the one that my father and I built, the one that I still own today. But the reason why I never pulled the trigger on a four-door, even after I bought my Corvair, all these years later, I've still been looking for a good four-door, is that it had to be a manual. And this one here is a manual. And that's basically the reason why I dropped everything we were doing today to hook onto the trailer and get down to Georgia to acquire this car. Every four-door, almost without exception, has been a two-speed Power Glide automatic. And although they're cool, I just have never seen a four-door manual. And obviously they made them. I'm sure maybe some of you guys have seen many of them. For what I've got going on here with projects, I really Really didn't need another car here or another project, but could not let this one slip through my fingers, could not pass this one up. It's just too solid. Everything's there, and just the fact that it is a 3-pedal, 3-speed car is just the coolest. So look at this blue interior. We're losing a little bit of the rear parcel shelf. We're losing a little bit of the headliner in the back, but full blue headliner, visors are accounted for. The original radio, this is original for 67. Bench seat car, which in my opinion is just so cool. My Monza was a bucket seat car, which, you know, is what everyone wanted. They wanted a 4-speed with a bucket seat car. This one's a bench seat with a 3-speed manual. The original Steelies with the original wheel covers. Look at that, it still has all the dust on it. Dang, this thing is so sick. It's even got 3 of the 4 original T3 headlights. I cannot wait to show you guys what this thing looks like next to my Corvair with a 2-inch roof chop. This thing sits 2 inches higher than mine does. We put my roof right about the top of the vent window. But let me show you the coolest thing of a 4-door late model Corvair, and this is why I've wanted one all these years. Some of you may know where this is going. No B-pillars. How sick! A unibody Chevrolet 4-door with no B-pillar. A pillarless saloon. So there's no tiptoeing around the obvious fact that we are gonna bag this car. I am totally gonna put this thing on air suspension because that's something I've wanted to do to one of these cars for well over a decade now. The other bummer part is the driver's side rear wheel is seized. It's locked right up. You can see we dragged it on. Luckily, my winch is strong enough we were able to pull it on, but it's gonna be pretty hard to get it off. So what I'll probably end up doing is I'll probably just work on it right here in front of the shop while it's on the trailer. I'll probably put a dolly under that wheel and pull it back a little bit away from the fenders. And we'll get the wheel off, we'll pull the drum off, and maybe we'll just unhook the brakes, see if that's all it takes to free that wheel up, and then we'll be able to unload it. All right, next morning, the monsoon is over. It was downpouring rain, super hard this morning, but now that the sun's out, we are going to get this thing unstrapped. We'll get it pulled back a little bit, and we'll take this wheel off, and we'll see what it's gonna take to free this thing up. So it did pour real hard this morning, and you know, window seals are to be expected, but we do have a puddle on the floor. It's moisture over there. The floors are still good in this car, which is incredible. So we'll definitely do my best to keep water from getting in it any longer, since it does have to sit outside for right now. It's so funny. These cars sit outside for so long. Yeah. And the second I acquire them, I'm like, get them inside. Like, no rain. It starts to rain. I start pulling all the rusty cars inside. Oh, dude, it's in gear. All right. Freaking in gear. What's wrong with me? Well, maybe it'll roll now. It's in neutral. I haven't seen that in a long time. To see a Corvair with a giant spring in it and not a little airbag with all of this cut out.
I can see why they called them unsafe.
And this is the safe one. The early models with the swing arm rear end are the unsafe ones. And this has the early Corvette U-joint independent rear suspension. Ralph Nader special. Oh my gosh. Oh man.
We didn't damage the backing plate.
Yeah.
It's just shoes and a drum. The adjuster's good, the cylinder's good. Great success.
Oh, yeah, great success.
Let's never, ever do that again.
Dude, I felt like we were back in New Hampshire for a second. This happens with any old car, but man, there's a lot we didn't film either. We are sweating to death now, and it's overcast. We'll clean this up. We'll take the shoes off completely. We'll put the drum back on, put the wheel back on. I'll get this thing off the trailer. My goodness gracious. All right, guys, well, we got it off the trailer. It's rolling. And as you just saw, Solo pushed it uphill. This is quite a steep driveway, as you could probably tell. I do love a lot of the wear and tear and patina and stuff. There's a lot of just like moldy, just grime. I don't want to pressure wash it too hard because a lot of this like old paint is gonna fly right off of this thing. I think the car originally was a similar color blue, but it had jams done at one point. There's some overspray in here. There's some overspray here and there on some of the seals. It must have been a window out, thresholds off, full-blown respray, because there's not a lot of respray on any of the trim. Door lock mechanisms were out. Even all up in here has been painted. It's had paint. You can see the line right here. So it may have actually been this blue, unless this was a Chevy thing. You know, I don't know. It spans over that hole there. I don't know. You know, none of this is oversprayed. You guys may have been able to tell so far that their back's a little wonky. It got hit here at some point. The bumper must have been replaced. You can see the angle of the lights. The inner reverse light is angled in a little bit, and there's been a ton of Bondo work on the trunk lid. You can see how that bends in right there. So it got hit in the back at some point, and they Bondoed the trunk lid up, but long enough ago to where the paint has just patinaed perfectly. So it's almost like, what do? You know, you don't want to repaint the car. You don't want to put another trunk lid on it. So I might just leave it, you know, just run with it the way I found it. It's all there. Same setup as my motor. It's got the twin single barrel Rochester carburetors, 2 single barrels. It's got oil in it. I mean, I already checked this before yesterday. I mean, it does not even look bad. So we've got oil. It won't turn over, but we don't know yet why it may not. Put a wrench down on the crank pulley and put it in neutral and try to turn it over and see if it turns over. Who knows? Maybe the alternator's seized, and with the belt on, we can't get it turned over. I don't know. It could literally be anything. So, but we'll do that in a separate episode, trying to get this started. All right, guys, well, here they are together side by side. Now, I have seen my Corvair next to a stock roofed Corvair before. You know, it's happened numerous times at shows. You know, my father and I chopped the roof on this thing over a decade ago, so I see it every single day in one fashion or another, and so the roof chop has kind of lost its shock value until you see it side by side with another late model Corvair. I mean, it is just crazy. And I've said this over and over again since we built this car. We only went down 2 inches with this roof chop, and we did that simply because of 2 reasons. One, I wanted to keep my vent windows, but the other thing was that we thought that a 2-inch chop was really all it needed, and I think we nailed it. A 2-inch chop was honestly all it needed. And when you see these two next to each other, it's that much more pronounced. I've always wanted a Chevrolet Corvair since I was a kid, so acquiring and building this coupe was kind of like a childhood dream come true, especially being able to do that with my father. And at the time, we'd never chopped a roof before, and this thing was a very involved project. So to have finally acquired the Corvair that I was originally looking for, in the spec that I was looking for one in, alongside the coupe with the chop, the body drop, and the air suspension, is just so cool. Now, I already showed you guys my favorite part of the 4-door, right? And that was the fact that it has no B-pillar. And that you have this really long window space, right? That was my favorite part of a 4-door. Well, we kind of acquired that in the 65 when we chopped the roof. And if you go back and watch the build video, I talk all about this. We only went down 2 inches, but because of the aggressive angles and pitch of the A and C pillars, it got 6 inches longer. If you think of cutting this down 2 inches, we'd have to stretch it to meet where we cut it, right? So only going down 2, we got 6 inches longer. This whole back half of the roof, from this seam to this seam, is a totally different roof off a different Corvair. That's how far we had to stretch it. We didn't just have to band it a little bit and stretch it. We had to actually put a whole different roof on the car. Having a pillarless, wide open window look out of a 2-door, we kind of acquired that by chopping the roof. This space got so much wider. And another thing that's really cool is 1967 was the last year they made a 4-door hardtop late model Corvair. The late models were 65 to 69 before they halted production on the Corvair forever, but the 4-door hardtop late model was only made 65, 66, and 67. So they only made them in 3 years. Well, guys, I kind of put my foot in my mouth because just a few episodes ago, I was saying that I wasn't really becoming an air-cooled channel. I wear so many different hats when it comes to being an automotive enthusiast. I love anything that I think looks cool. So I've got so many ideas for so many weird, crazy projects that don't involve air-cooled cars, but here we are, just yet one more air-cooled car, and not just another air-cooled car, but an oddball air-cooled car. We are so deep into the Auto Union 1000 SP project, and I'm not losing focus on it. I'm not a glutton for punishment, but when something pops up that you've been looking for so long, you can't say no. You just gotta go with your gut. We've got another Corvair in the stable, boys, and I'm looking so forward to working on this car. The next episode you'll see with this car will definitely be getting it running. Brakes need to be gone through, motor needs to be gone through, transmission's probably fine. Mine sat for 41 years. Check fluids, never changed the clutch, never changed the trans fluid, and I've put thousands and thousands of miles on this car in the last decade. If this is anything like that one, I've got high hopes and all the confidence that this thing will get running with minimal work. So stay tuned, more air-cooled content coming soon. Thank you guys so much for watching. I appreciate all of you guys so much. Thank you for the support. We'll see you in the next episode.